Rev up your engines!
Anthony asks, I recently changed the oil last week on my 94 Cutlass Sierra S with 53,000 miles. Wow, hardly any miles on a car that old. Woo-wee. But after I changed the oil, I noticed there was oil all over the place. So I checked everything and the drain plug was tight. The oil filter seemed tight. I took it off and then turned it back on, and now I checked and it's not leaking. What do you think? Okay, it could be a classic problem that I've seen many times. So you want to check this right away. Take the oil filter off entirely. Look at the end of the oil filter and get your flashlight and look at the block of the engine where the oil filter screws on. You could have double gasketed. It could have been that the old gasket on your old oil filter came off. And when they're like that, sometimes they'll leak, and if you tighten them up, they won't leak, but it's dangerous having two gaskets, so take it off. And if you do see two gaskets, that was the whole problem. Now, if it doesn't leak anymore after you check that, odds are, and it didn't have the double gasket, odds are you just didn't have the oil filter on tight enough and it was squeezing out of the sides. But I often see people do that with double gaskets, and you can ruin your engine later, so take it off. Make sure it is not double gasketed with two gaskets instead of just one. Alex Ramirez says, should I buy a 2014 Kia Soul? Okay, well, I personally think it's one of the ugliest vehicles ever made, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? Realize it's a Kia. They have a limited lifespan. If you buy 2014, let's say it's got 50, 60,000 miles, it still might go trouble-free till it gets 120 or something thousand miles. They're okay cars, but you don't want to buy a high-mileage one because they tend to fall apart as they age. It all depends on the price point of what you can get it for, how many miles it has on it. You're not going to get 200,000-300,000 miles like a Toyota or Honda, but if you can get one cheap enough and you want to drive that weird-looking thing around, go right ahead. Just don't buy one that has too many miles on it. Sergio Nunez says, what do you think of the Acura TL? Those are excellent built cars. They handle well. They got the Honda engines in them, solid built engines. The only problem with Acuras is when they age and they get really high mileage, the parts are super expensive. And then something that costs $100 a Honda might cost $350 for an Acura. They are well built cars. They're fun to drive. If you like sporty little cars, they can be excellent cars to drive around. You can often get used ones at a decent deal too. I had a customer just buy a used one. He paid $3,000 for it, and it was a pretty decent car for $3,000. So, there's nothing wrong with that. The new ones, they're kind of pricey, but, most new cars are rather pricey. That's why I always buy used ones. Well, GG says, I'm just curious about his thoughts regarding performance, VW, reliability, and longevity when taken care of, including GTIs. Volkswagen makes good engines. They always did. They used to be solid, reliable entire cars, like the Beetles. They could run forever. They didn't cost much. They got more and more high-tech. Hey, they own Porsche. They own Audi. They bought a lot of companies up. And they're too high technology these days. You buy one, it generally turns into an endless money pit as it ages. Who wants to get stuck with that? Plus, there's a lot of plastic crap in all of them. I got customers, the last 20 years, not a single one ever bought a Volkswagen and then bought another one. The door handles would keep breaking off. The air conditioners would break. They just are not very well-built, reliable vehicles anymore. But they are fast and they drive well when they're working. Of course, they're not as bad as, I say, Alfa Romeos, but they still are money pits as they age. Grantos asks, Scotty, my friend's selling this 2002 MX-5 Miata with 127,000 miles for $1,200. Do you think it'd be a good weekend car? I was wondering if it's reliable. Well, if he's taking care of it, 127,000 miles isn't that much on one of those Miatas. They're well-made vehicles. Now, hopefully, it's a standard transmission, because those are really fun to drive with standard transmissions, and they're pretty bulletproof and they can run forever. If it is an automatic transmission Miata, you want to road test it and see if it's shifting right. And if it doesn't shift right, don't buy it, because the trannies on those things, the automatic ones, are absolute garbage. You don't want to buy one with an automatic transmission. Every time I have a customer with one, the reason they generally get rid of it is because it's an automatic transmission Miata, and the transmission's going out. When I tell them it's going to cost them $3 to $5 to fix it, they just say, and they get rid of the vehicle. So if it's a standard transmission and it runs good, it's a good price, and it could be a fun car to drive around for quite some time. Randy asks, 2014 Scion TC, I heard people have electrical idling issues after they disconnect and reconnect the batteries. Is there anything I should know when I need this to clean my terminals? A lot of Toyota products, and that's a Toyota product, do that. You disconnect the battery, they go back to scratch, and they got to relearn the idle configurations. If you don't want that to happen, do what I do when I'm working on customers' cars. Get a battery memory saver. AutoZone sells them for like $12. You just plug it in the OBD port, and then it powers the computer. So when you disconnect the battery and clean it and put it on, the computer hasn't lost power. They're called battery memory savers. You can get them anywhere. You can get them on Amazon. They're just a simple device with 12-volt power, or the really cheaper ones, they plug in and they got 2 terminals. And you connect them to a 12-volt battery, like a motorcycle battery or any 12-volt battery supply, another battery from another car, and then it keeps the computer memory alive. It's a good idea to get one for any modern car. I says, Scotty, what do you think of $100 for a pick-apart transmission worth the gamble for my 03 Jeep Grand Cherokee when a transmission fails? All right, well, you kind of answered your own question. You're going to pick apart, okay? They buy those cars for almost nothing. Then you got to go and pull the transmission out of it and buy it for $100. It's a wild gamble. You have no idea. Is it going to work? It's not going to work. And it's a lot of work taking a transmission out of a car and then putting it into another one. I wouldn't gamble with something that cheap. I'd rather go to a quality yard that maybe you're going to pay $400 or $500 for a used transmission that you can see it's in the vehicle, how many miles are on it, rather than some piece of junk that's in a pick-apart. They're in pick-apart because they're junk. They don't pay much for them and they don't charge much for them. You want a door, a hood, crap like that, wheels, you can see it. But something like a transmission, I'd kind of shy away from that one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.